This episode of the Grand Rising Show was brought to you by Autochthonous Assembly, where the real work gets done. Autochthonous Assembly is a gathering of the minds that do the work. Now, for many of our first-time subscribers and first-time visitors, you may be wondering who Autochthonous Assembly are. You can find this information about our mission statement and our core values on the website at autochthonousassembly.com/about. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to raising up Indigenous American voices by using genealogy, also known as family history, or your family tree, which is the study of families and the tracing of their lineages and history. Genealogists use oral interviews, historical records, genetic analysis, and other records to obtain information about a family and to demonstrate kinship and pedigrees of its members. Our core values are the foundation of our company, which is essential to our success and serve as a lens through which we evaluate every business decision. Those core values are, but are not limited to, integrity, which is knowing and doing what is right; respect, which is treating others the way you want to be treated; responsibility, which is embracing opportunities to contribute; and servant leadership, which is serving the common good. Now, at Autochthonous Assembly, we have a couple of goals here. And our first goal and foremost of the reason why we do everything that we do is to ensure that we help you do your genealogy and connect back to your tribe and find out where you are from. Everything that we do from the standpoint of the Grand Rising Show and all the information that's posted on the website is dedicated to that one specific purpose, helping you find your genealogy, find your relatives, find your family so that you will know exactly who you are. And if you choose to, tie back into your tribe, whether that tribe is a Native American tribe, an American Indian tribe, whether it's allowing you to determine which house in Africa that you belong to, or what clan of Scandinavia or Europe or France that you belong to. Either way, our goal is to do just that, help you find out who you are so you know exactly where to start. We are not here to tell you who you are, and we're not here to tell you who you are not. We're just here to help you discover your beginnings. Another one of our missions is to help you become financially independent so that you can help your generations for the next 7 generations and for you and your relatives. And if you should choose to use this information that we provide free of charge to help not only yourself, but your community and your tribe, then we will do everything in our power to make sure that gets done as well. And remember, our goal here is to make sure that we help you get exposed to this information to put you in the best situation possible. So now what I'm going to do now is return it back over to the panel to see if there was anything I missed, and I will go ahead and get set up so we can get ready and get digging into this information. Panel, take it away.
Warning, warning, warning. Hard hats, pickaxe, shovels, boots required.
Rising, Grand Rising. Hope everyone's doing well this rising. What's going on, Bones? How you doing? What's going on, Bones? How you doing? What's going on, chat? What's going on, everybody?
Peace, peace.
Can everybody give us some ones in chat to make sure we're heard?
1 2 1 2.
2 2 2. Can y'all hear me?
Really? Just don't do that this morning. Don't do that.
Got people jumping down on the floor.
2 2 2 2. Can y'all hear me? 2.
Don't do that.
Sorry. Just mic checking this rising, grand rising, y'all. Peace to the panel, peace to the chat.
As some of them would say, one.
Oh, Copper Chopper already coming in, Copper Chopper 803 is already coming in acting crazy. Grand Fed Friday, aka Hump Friday.
Hump Friday.
That's what we doing.
Like, what Friday? What Friday? What Friday? Sound like what? Friday.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
So y'all trying to say that we are not going to
Ever go back to regular days? No, yes, it's all Fridays.
Okay. Fair
I
enough.
didn't know if that was your question. I just wanted to answer that question for anybody who had it. Peace to the panel, peace to the chat.
We have officially changed the days of the week.
Well, might as well. Why not? Right? Let's just, if we're gonna do it all the way. My father said, don't be half behind in nothing.
Hey, seems like that's the new thing. Make it up as you go.
Don't be nice. Be nice.
Hey, just remember, you just said don't be nice.
Don't.
You almost said don't do it.
Nice.
She ended up saying don't be nice. I won't. Not today.
I got one word for that. Help.
We gotta get it in early. No sellout. Gotta go. He gotta move.
LJ Free says Tiff has a question. What's Tiff's question? Did y'all see Tiff's question?
Nope. I see her hand up.
Tiff, post your question.
Oh, that's her new one. She putting the one up.
Really? Uh-oh. Okay. Oh, Cliff, thank you for your one. Appreciate you. I want to go ahead and send a grand rising and a shout out to the new subscribers. I want to say a special grand rising shout out to the Autochthonous Assembly, A2 Silent Majority. You're the reason why we have the numbers that we have. And just because you don't participate in the chat, does that mean we don't appreciate you? So thank you for all the work that you do in your communities, with your clans, with your houses, with your tribes. And, hopefully this information has helped you with your genealogy. And to the best chat, the smartest chat, the chat that makes sure we do our research and we post the links to the sources, who still hasn't named themselves. Go ahead.
No. Hashtag proof not a problem. 2020.
The proof is not a problem, chat. Best chat ever. How y'all doing? It's good for y'all to be here. We're very glad that y'all are here. So let's go ahead with this roll call. Grand Rising LJ Free. Grand Rising Enrique. Grand Rising Macadon 1. Grand Rising Oak Cliff Reed. Grand Rising Copper Chopper 803. Grand Rising Power Tan 9 Man. Grand Rising I Am Flying Squirrel. Grand Rising No Sellout. Grand Rising Cab.
It's me.
Grand Rising Copper Color Sea Star. Ancestor. Excuse me. Grand Rising Ohio Player. Grand Rising. Who else? We got everybody so far that's in here.
Tia, man, you didn't get her name right since you changed it.
Hey, look. What I tell y'all, I cannot read and talk at the same time. Don't get mad at me. Don't do it.
Grand Rising David Corey. See, they were about to forget you, David.
Grand Rising Michael Brown Harris. Well, see.
Rich said he was going to do that on purpose.
You know what? Don't do that. Don't do that.
I'm joking. I'm joshing. I'm joking.
Yeah, but they don't know you.
I don't like change.
So what's going on with everyone? How's everyone doing? We good? We good?
Nope.
Oh, feeling great.
Yeah, I heard, literally heard that you had an adventurous day yesterday, and somebody thought you was me.
They literally heard. Yeah, at the end of all of that, somebody definitely mistook you for you.
They thought you was me. I'm like, we don't even sound alike, but
I tried to warn them.
And I know who you
and
are.
I told them, please do it. Please do. Please. But, you know.
Investigate if you want to.
If you want to, you can. But no, the relatives probably done got around by now. Yesterday was over on Dagger Squad channel. Basically speaking up on the behalf of the American Indian and why we do what we do and letting them know we're not here trying to tell you who you are. And we're not going to accept no one trying to impose on who we are on us. When we stand behind, just everybody do your genealogy and find out your own story. We don't need no man or no woman telling us who we are. That's how we got in this situation, how we are now. And if you say that you're here for the people, when new information is presented, let's sit down like grown men and women and go through the research, go through the information, instead of picking a narrative and blocking everybody out. Because once you do that, how are you really helping? You're only helping yourself when you do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Facts. And no disrespect to those channels or anything, but you know, if somebody tells you that there's a difference between a Native American and an American Indian, but yet you still say that there are culture vultures out here trying to be Native Americans when nobody's using those terms, I don't know, you just gotta stop being ignorant and listen. Otherwise it's just a narrative, and you know, ain't no narrative over here.
Yeah. Oh, you were finna say something, TMH?
No, go ahead. You got it.
Yeah, instead of pushing this narrative that we all have to come from one landmass, about doing the research on who told you that or where that comes from, that the same thing that you want to be critiqued by, wouldn't it be better for people to critique themselves by that same rule first? Especially when the same thing that we say in our own community applies to all communities. If you want to know American Indian history, talk to the tribes. There's over 573 federally recognized tribes. There's over 1,000 state-recognized tribes.
I heard somebody say that last
I mean, it's so easily. They want to know? Go talk to Chief Langley. Debate that. Debate our tribal elders that still know our history and still standing up for our history. And it's not about banging on our chest who's better, this and that, because a lot of them are our people that was looking for a way out. And like a lot of us, they came across certain information and the way it was presented or what was going on in their life in that time, they gravitated to it. And if we're saying we're the American Indian and we have a voice, the days of us sitting back not using our voice are over. How can our people know that they have a choice to choose who they are, to learn who they are, if we're not loud enough to where they can hear us to know where they can come and get it? We have to stop allowing people that don't have our best interests in mind to be our voices. Because when we allow that, that keeps us in this same perpetual cycle of the same old. Nothing changed, nothing changed. And again, like I said, it's not about bragging who's better, who's right, who's wrong, because we're all here to learn together. Just like at one time we always say, we was taught one time Pluto was a planet. Then they have to bring new information and people had to sit down and rediscuss it. We can do that with everybody else's findings, but we can't do that with our own personal selves.
Mm-hmm.
Our own personal selves, we can't reevaluate the information. We got to get out of these colonized minds, and that means all of us. The American Indians, the ones who think they're African Americans, and the ones that might be. Because once all this gets sorted out and everybody know their responsibility and where they're supposed to be, then the real work got to get started. This is nothing here. This is the warm-up. You know, and that's about it.
Exactly. Pre-game warm-ups right now.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the reason why we here, why we exist, and if you listen to the public service announcement, yeah, I know it's a little long, but it's there for a reason so people can understand that our job is not to tell you who you are. We're not here to tell you that everybody came from this landmass. We're not here to tell you that everybody is American Indian or Native American. And by the way, Native Americans, if you talk to them, they don't call themselves American Indian. They insist on calling themselves Native Americans. We don't call ourselves Native Americans. We call ourselves American Indians. There's a difference. You got treaties that have Native Americans in them, and then you have treaties that have American Indians in them. They are not interchangeable. When they talk about the HUD codes or the PIH codes, the Public Indian Housing Codes, how come those codes came out after the majority of your American Indians were already on reservations? Don't they already have houses? So if they have their houses, if those Native Americans have houses, then what were the PIH codes for? Who were they for?
I was going to ask you that question. If there are Native Americans with reservations through HUD, and there are PIH codes, Public Indian Housing Codes, who's on reservation?
So those PIH codes are for the Indians that are not on reservations who are not Native Americans. Now that does not mean Native Americans.
I don't know if you got out.
Yeah, I heard you. That does not mean that Native Americans cannot participate in the PIH codes, but those PIH codes are for us.
There's a separation, is what I meant to. What I was saying.
There is a separation. For anybody that says that they're not, all you have to do is go talk to Native Americans, and they will tell you they don't refer to themselves as American Indians. I cannot stress that enough. Go talk to some of these tribes in the lower the lower Americas. I'm about to say South America. And
but y'all know the most interesting thing yesterday to me about the discussion is that the second time around, come back and they read the census. When they start reading the census, I was like, you don't even know you reading the dagger in your hand. 1790 census. There's only 3 categories that you was able to identify as: free person of color, free white, or slave. An American Indian who was living around Europeans, we know this because we did this about 2 months ago, who was living around Europeans, got identified as what? Either a free person of color, a free white, or if he was working a slave, meaning indentured servant. So if this happened in 1790, not to mention the marshals are the enumerators, nobody's filling out the census for themselves at this time. So it's whatever they think you are, that's what they're writing down. So we get to 1860 where they put Indian on the census. Okay, cool. But let's not forget, we just went 50 years with Indians having to identify as either black or white. So if you're born in 1790, you went 50 years identifying as something. You don't know you Indian by then no more.
Or to even put a different light on it, because you're not enumerating yourself. The people that were labeling you in Indian for 50 years, they're not going to change your designation to Indian. They're going to keep your designation as free person of color.
Black or white. And that's what I mean. You don't know that you're not Indian anymore. Because after 50 years, they not, man, come on, man. Self-identification first year was what? 1970?
Yep, 1970. That's the year that we was able to
You wasn't able to fill it out for yourself until 1970. So all the censuses before then, somebody else is identifying who they think you are. off of the rules that was given to them.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you can go ahead and type in the census rules. Rules for the enumerators. I mean, all that stuff is public information.
Man, I cannot wait till we go back over the census, yo. Cannot wait.
They read them out. They read them out like they were doing something with it, but not understanding.
Yep.
The rules wasn't for the everyday person. The rules were for the U.S. Marshals at the time that was responsible for doing the census. It tells you in the rules, but when you spot read, I guess that's how it goes.
You spot read on purpose. That's how it goes.
LJ Free says, question, what do you call it when a spell is put on you in voodoo? Now let me ask, what is the name of the false narrative movie that told the masses we descended from African slaves? Yeah, when you place a spell on somebody, it's called a root. Yeah, it's called a root. And wow. Right in our face. So what she's saying
is... And the
movie
that they dropped on you in the 70s was them roots. Mm-hmm. And them roots got you thinking you African.
Yeah, before that movie, which was actually... There was a lawsuit put out the same year that came out in 1979 where Alex Haley paid out over $60,000. What was it, $600,000 for plagiarism and theft?
The worst case of plagiarism ever seen.
They still pushing that movie to this day. Different variations of it. Go figure. Exactly, Free. Right in our face. They letting you know we placed a spell on you. Wasn't there a song? Talk about some like I put a spell on you. Anyway, never mind.
I put a spell on you.
Oh, see, that's why I like the chat. David Corrier was like, "Excuse me, TMH, 650,000, sir. Don't shut the man out. 50,000." Yeah, that was Alex Haley had to pay out $650,000 because he stole that story from someone. So yeah.
You say he stole that fictional story?
He stole the fiction. He stole a fictional story and tried to make it a real story. But he stole it from a fictional story.
I found you, Grand Rising Alton Clay. Grand Rising Lady J. Said 1977 sued in federal court. Wow, not bad. I didn't know.
Oh, before we go on, I got to get this off my head too. Did y'all read that info that Copper dropped on the Outer Africa theory?
No, I didn't read it on. No, I didn't read it on purpose.
You wouldn't believe when this theory came out. Take a guess.
Yesterday? No, I'm just playing.
1913. 1913.
Stop it, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got jokes this rise.
1951. The lady that did the the mitochondrial Eve, that's 1951, y'all.
Is that going to be on the website?
Yeah. I'll be posting it up today. Yeah, 1951. This Outer Africa theory. The science that they used to base this theory is from 1951. So how old is this Outer Africa thing again?
They talking about 1951. Then 51, 51, or 61. Yeah.
No, 51. She's still alive. She's the head of the college now.
So she would be approximately 69.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 68.
University of Hawaii is with us, where she did the study at. But all that'll be on the form.
Yeah, I was actually stationed in Hawaii. That's a nice university. That's where they, that's where what was that stuff came from? Math.
You know that's special. You know that's that special science. We can't talk about that moon science and stuff.
Okay, all right. Let's be nice. What are we talking about today? Jiminy Christmas. What are we talking about today, Bounce?
Basically, you got me. Oh, you got me good. Basically, finishing on where we went in during Honduras.
Okay.
Showing the connection of Jamaica and Honduras at this time. And basically going further into South America to the colonies they were starting to set up. Because as we go deeper in, it's going to get interesting. That probably sometime by the end of this week, we'll end back up in Germany.
So we're going to be picking up from Honduras in the 19th century because now it's talking about the independence of Spain. Or do I need to go another direction?
Yeah, we can go into 19th century. We can finish up on Honduras here, then go to the next one.
Okay, cool. All right. So we know that No Sellout is going to be in the chat participating with him and his wonder twin of trouble, LJ Free. So y'all be on the lookout for that.
Wonder Twins activate.
No, Wonder Twins deactivate. Grand Rising Mike Easton. So go ahead and get started. Put this link in the chat. And we're in the independence from Spain. So, we can do this. Let's go ahead and punch this clock. So everybody know to get their hard hats on. Pass out the equipment. Everybody with a ratchet, pass out the helmets. Get the knee pads on. Somebody jump on that front end loader. Somebody get on that backhoe. Get them shovels, get a hammer. Y'all know how we do. Here we go. All right. Oak Cliff says turn that down. Oak Cliff, you gonna stop yelling at me? No, I'm just playing. No, but for real though. It's a construction zone. It's supposed to be loud. Hold on, let me turn it down. Gonna start calling Oak Cliff the yeller. All right, so I turned it down, Oak Cliff. Thank you. David Corey said that's Pamela's job.
She said she's filling in for the moment. Yeah. She's filling in. She gonna hold it down.
Y'all know Pamela Hall Pass don't show up till like 9. She
said she got things to do. She's on the move.
She's a foreman. Grand Rising Mark Walton. We about to go in on this. We're about to go in on the independence from Spain, 1821. We're in Honduras still. So it reads, in the early 19th century, Napoleon's occupation of Spain led to the outbreak of revolts all across Spanish America. In New Spain, all of the fighting by those seeking independence was done in the center of the area from 1810 to 1821, what today is central Mexico. Once the viceroy was defeated in the capital Mexico City in 1821, the news of the independence were sent to all territories of New Spain, including the intendancies of the former captaincy of Guatemala. So let's stop for a second. Had to test the brakes on the cab, you know how we do. Rewind. So, a couple things caught my attention. Because, you know, we're always paying attention to the timelines. So the first thing that captures my attention is we're in the 19th century, 1821, right? Napoleon, who was everywhere, you know how the Romans do. Excuse me. He's ruling under what they call New Spain, which is South America, right?
Yep.
And this is from 1810 to 1821. Now, what do we know is happening in 1821 in the continents of Europe? What do we know that is happening in 1821 in the continents of Central America or the United States? What's happening in 1820?
A whole lot of fighting.
The toilet cheers.
This what?
I don't know. Is it the Trail of Tears? I actually don't know.
Yeah, Trail of Tears. Well, the Trail of Tears got started according to history, the Trail of Tears got started basically in 1830. But they started the Indian Removal Act.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to remember, some tribes were already moving out that way. And the reason why they were already moving out that way, I'm sorry, Bones, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was disagreeing.
We know that they were already moving out that way is because Ireland, because of the potato, the famine, the potato famine,
yep, potato famine. Mm-hmm.
is pouring half of their population into the United States. And then you also have the Germans coming over. So between 1820 and 1870, you have over 7.5 million Irish and 7.5 million Germans coming to the Americas. At the same time that Spain is starting to show its dominance in the southern part of America, here in what is now known as Honduras. So all this stuff is happening at the same time, simultaneously, if you will. And we've already shown over the last couple of days how the timelines are not matching up. So that's the reason why we want to keep a close eye on those timelines. So for those of you who are more familiar with South American history, or who are more familiar with the Trail of Tears or what's going on in Europe, keep a close eye on this stuff, because we don't want to miss any discrepancies in timelines, because we already found a 296-year discrepancy when it came to the Council of India intersecting with Honduras in the 1500s, when it didn't become a legitimate council until the 1800s. So just keep an eye on that. That's why I wanted to put that out there. So I'm going to continue reading. Once the viceroy was defeated in Capital, Mexico, in 1821, the news of the independence were sent out to all the territories of New Spain, including the intendancies of former captaincy of Guatemala. Accepting this as a fact, Honduras joined the other Central American intendancies in a joint declaration of independence from Spain. A public proclamation was done through the Act of Independence in 1821. So there was a public proclamation for Act of Independence in 1821. Moving on to the next paragraph. After the Declaration of Independence, it was the intention of the New Spain Parliament to establish a commonwealth whereby the King of Spain, Ferdinand VII, would also be Emperor of New Spain. Now, we already know when they say Spain and New Spain, they're talking about the Iberian Peninsula. The reason why they call it Spain, go ahead.
No, disagreeing.
Yeah, the reason why they call it Spain is because it comes from the word Hispania. And we know that when the Romans were in control of that area, they called it Hispania because that is Latin for Iberian Peninsula. And Spain didn't become Spain until 1502. So the 1492 situation is a debacle, and it doesn't match up with the timelines coming from Spain, coming from France, coming from Portugal, which is still part of the Iberian Peninsula. So just keep that in mind. So then it goes on to read that the Emperor of New Spain, in which both countries were to be governed by separate laws with their own legislative offices. Should the king refuse a position, the law provided for a member of the House of Bourbon to accede to the New Spain throne, New Spain throne. Now, Bones, the House of Bourbon.
Yep.
Can you give us a little recap on the House of Bourbon, so people will know it's not just about a drink or a drink?
The House of Bourbon ties back to France, a French house, Germanic descent, and it's basically one of the houses from the 13 seats of the Roman Empire, as we went over, what was this, 2 weeks ago? Mm-hmm. And basically, this is where they choose their rulers from. People from these families become kings of particular areas. Then all these kings, they would get together to vote on who's the emperor.
Thank you. And I'm pointing that out so people can actually go pull up the House of Spain. I mean, excuse me, the House of Bourbon, and do your research, and you'll realize there are 13 houses, 13 families. That number should start resonating for those of us who are, students and are learning and looking at things from that perspective. And David Corey said, he pulled it in the chat, he says Huguenots. 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 That's right, 13 banks, 13 stars on the original flag, 13 floors that are not mentioned in any of our buildings. You have a 12th floor and 14th floor, no 13th floor. So, things to take into consideration. So then it goes on to read that pickup. It says Ferdinand VII did not recognize the independence and said that Spain would not allow any other European prince to take the throne of New Spain. So we already know these brothers, these cousins are always fighting for power and for location and for authority and for land. So Ferdinand VII was like, I ain't having it. I don't care who your mama is, who your daddy is. I don't care what house you come from. It's not happening.
If you ain't come from mine, you ain't ruling.
Exactly. You know one of mine? Get to stepping. Bones put the link to the House of Bourbon in the Wikipedia. It's a Wikipedia link, and then at the bottom of that link is a sources for you to do your further review. And again, if there is anything that is missed or anything that is potentially wrong that needs to be discussed, please send us that information so we can correct it, and then we'll come on live and make that correction as necessary. Because again, it's about getting it right. We're not concerned about being right. So, next paragraph reads, by request of Parliament, the President of the Regency, Austin de Iturbide, was proclaimed Emperor of Spain, but the Parliament also decided to rename New Spain to Mexico. The new...
Hold up. Stop the presses.
Stop. Wait a minute. Okay. Rewind.
Decided to rename New Spain to Mexico. Not to be funny, so what's a Mexican again?
A Mexican is an Iberian.
Because if the landmass that we call Spain, well, Mexico today, didn't become Mexico until 1821, what they say, and Mexicans popped up there on the map 1821, and people wasn't there before?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, just a thought.
I mean, but that's important because at the end of the day, who named you Mexican? Where did that name come from? It came from the Spaniards. It came from those Iberians on the Iberian Peninsula, aka on Hispaniola, named by the Romans, aka the Spanish, who didn't come into existence until 1502. So now you have a new name people, relatively, naming a new name people.
Ain't that something? The dude playing the dude that's playing the dude that's playing another dude.
Next to the dude. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
So my daddy named me or misnamed me, so I'm going to misname you. So we all going to be misnamed together.
Everybody confused in the room. Call one name, everybody raise their hand.
So now it says the Mexican Empire was the official name given to this monarchical regime from 1821 to 1823. And it was given to the monarchical regime, so because it was given to the monarchical regime, the land that it was ruling over was erroneously called, the Mexican Empire. But here's the question. What did the people that was residing there call themselves? Because just because they call you something, that don't mean that's what you call yourself. And that's the thing that we try to get across. And this goes for everybody. I don't care what you align yourself with as a people. What was your ancestors? What were your ancestors calling you? Not what somebody named you. Because if somebody go around and start naming if somebody come over and start naming all the Americans toasters, are we gonna be toasters now?
I don't know about y'all, but it ain't working for me.
Alton Clay says, what does Mexico mean? Somebody look it up. That's a good question, Alton. Does it mean no sound?
Oh, to be honest.
Yeah, we have to find out what Mexico actually means. because that would be a Latin word from Ladino.
Which was created by the Micmac.
Mm-hmm.
Spoken by the Micmac.
Mm-hmm.
Predecessors to Latin.
Mm-hmm. Says the territory of the Mexican Empire included the continental tendencies and provinces of New Spain proper, including those of the former Captaincy General of Guatemala. See History of Central America. Let's do that. History of Central America.
Mexico means place of the Mexa. That's what it translates to in English, place of the Mexa.
So now we gotta look up Mexa. Didn't they teach you not to define a word with a word?
But it says, but the etymology, Mexcata itself is of unknown etymology. New Spain is mistaken as the old name for Mexico, rather than the name of a large expanse of land which covered much of North America and included the Caribbean and the Philippines. Oh, hold on. New Spain is mistaken as the old name for Mexico, rather than the name of a large expanse of land which covered much of North America and included the Caribbean and the Philippines.
The Caribbean and the Philippines?
I'm going to post a link in the chat.
How is that possible? But it would make sense because now you know why there are Spanish-speaking individuals or individuals that speak a form of Spanish on the Caribbean islands. Because you had, the Spanish on one side, the Dutch on the other side, or the Spanish on one side and the French on the other side. Dutch ain't nothing but French, and all of them are Germans or Gauls. So, yeah, unknown origin, like Free says, means they're talking about you. Anytime someone says unknown origin is coming from Old Spanish, what they're talking about is Latin or Ladino, which comes from the Micmac, which were a tribe in North America, i.e. what is now called Canada. David Corey says that means somebody made it up, throwing lots of stuff together to make goulash.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah,
so we can click on it. It's got to be interested. Like, hold on.
Yeah, I'll read it. Alton Clay had to go out and come back in because he didn't have any sound. He said, so what does Mexico mean? Can you read that again, Bones? Hold on. I click on it. Hold on. I'm going to share my screen so people can see it. Give me un momento, por favor.
And it says the Nahuti word Mexico means place of Mexa.
Let's see if I can show my screen. Give me a second. Just gonna show up. That ain't working. That ain't cool. Hold on. For whatever reason, y'all is not cooperating today. My apologies. Yeah, I'm not able to pull to share my screen, so I'm just gonna read it to y'all. We're gonna drop the link in there, and we're gonna keep it moving because I ain't trying to hold everybody up. But y'all have access to the link. So let me go ahead and read this. Name of Mexico. Several hypotheses seek to explain the origin of the name Mexico, which dates back to the 14th century Mesoamerican. The Natal word Mexico means place of the Mexico, Mexica, but the ethnonym Mexicatl itself is of unknown etymology. An alternate possibility is a name may come from the Mexican, a crest that grew in the swamplands of Lake Texcoco. It was an edible grass that the Aztecs of the Mexica survived on, and they settled there. Today lies in Mexico City. Now that's interesting. They can tell you what the
right?
Say again.
Edible grass and swamps. Wouldn't that be a form of rice?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just checking.
From what I understand. But what I find interesting is they can tell you that what the meaning is, the etymology meaning is of unknown origin. This is unknown etymology. But then they say an alternate possibility is. It's like, really? That's what we doing?
So you have no idea where the word comes from, but you can have possibilities and alternate possibilities. What?
Unknown origin. All right. We know what the origin is. Ladino comes from the Mi'kmaq, which created Latin.
Who had their own form of hieroglyphs that are totally different and independent of the Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Mm-hmm.
When they tell you there was no written language, our ancestors didn't have it. Oh, yes, they did.
No. Native Americans might not have had a written language, but we had one. And that is not a shot at the Native Americans. I'm just saying. Ask them, they'll be able to tell you. So is that all you needed me to read on that? Or did you need me to read something else? Oh. For the word Mexico.
Yeah, we can go a little bit further down.
Okay.
Because I was trying to find out this Caribbean and Philippines connection.
Okay, it says the country Mexico did not name its capital after itself, as in Mexico City, the accepted name internationally, but the converse actually applies. Before Spanish times, the capital was formerly named Tenochtitlan, but was the seat of the Mexica Empire, which is known as the Aztec Empire. Well, they can tell you about Tenochtitlan, but they can't tell you where. Anyway.
They can tell you it was the center of the Aztec Empire. They can tell you all this. But they don't know where the word comes from.
Okay. As far back as 1590, the Theatrum Orbis Terrarum showed that the northern part of the New World was known as America Mexicana, Mexican America. Quick question.
Yes.
1590.
1590.
What does American history claim that America got its name from? Amerigo Vespucci, right? When did Amerigo Vespucci get to the Americas? Hold on. I need to be more specific with the question.
1507, supposedly.
Yeah, because I'm looking here and it says okay. Colloquially known as the New World, in 1507, the new continent was named America after the Latin version of Vespucci's first name. Vespucci became the citizen of the Crown of Castle. There go another crown, Crown of Castile, and died in Seville. So here's the question. When we start doing the history, or we started following the history from the Spaniards' point, from the Ottoman Empire. Because who was in control in between 1501 and 1507? We know it wasn't Spain. They were just coming into power. So who was under power then, Bones? Wasn't it the Ottoman Empire? Wasn't France helping rule? And wasn't Italy at that time under French rule?
Yep.
And go ahead.
Have you noticed that these navigators, so-called explorers that supposedly come into America at this time, who they keep saying was Spanish, why they all living in Italy? Vespucci is an Italian.
So here's a more important question. If you're claiming that you've flown under the Spanish crown because of King Ferdinand and Isabella under the Spanish flag, but Spain doesn't have control of Italy then. France does. France does not release control over Italy until 1520s, 1524, 1525 time frame. So how are you flying under the Spanish flag in 1507 when Spain isn't even in place to do that yet? They're just getting their monarchs in place. The Ottomans are still controlling everything. The French are still controlling everything. But yet the Spanish is ruling? Nah, that doesn't fit the timeline on that side of the continent, on that side of the world. Somebody got some explaining to do. But I digress. We're gonna keep on with this narrative.
Lucy.
It goes on to read that, as was known as American Mexicana, as Mexico was the seat for the New Spain viceroyalty, New Spain is mistaken as the old name of Mexico rather than the name of large expanses of land which covered much of North America, including the Caribbean and the Philippines. Since New Spain was not actually a state or a contiguous piece of land, in modern times it would have been a jurisdiction under the command of authorities in modern Mexico City. Under the Spaniards, Mexico was both the name of the capital and its sphere of influence, most of which exists in the greater Mexico City and the state of Mexico. Some parts of Puebla, Morelos, and Hidalgo were also part of Spanish-era Mexico. Now, Bones, remember we had read, I think it was yesterday, or how, was it Charlotte? Ended up tying in Canada to Mexico? What time frame was that? Oh, we too soon.
I can't remember the year. It's when Maximilian I is the king. That's when they tie in.
When did that?
And now, because a lot of people, I mean, this might be a shocker alert. A lot of people don't look at Canada and realize Canada is Latin America. And Canada is a monarchy.
Okay, this is in the 1800s. But again, you got to pay attention to timelines. We've already known that they already lied about the timelines and overlay some stuff from the 1800s on top of the 1500s. So this could possibly be what we call a lecto defacilio, thanks to Free, meaning they're overlaying stories on top of stories on top of story, and the least likely is the actual story. So this story could be an overlay. So please keep that in mind. That's why timelines are so important. So in 1821, the continental part of New Spain seceded from Spain during the triennial liberal, in which Augustin de Iturbide marched triumphantly with his army of the three guarantees: religion, independence, and unity. This was followed by the birth of the short-lived First Mexican Empire. that used the Mexico name according to the convention used previously by Roman Empire. Latin, Imperium Romanum, and the Holy Roman Empire, whereby the capital gives rise to the name of the empire. This was the first recorded use of Mexico as a country title.
Yeah, you can press on the link of the first Mexican Empire. We can go through that, then go back to Honduras.
Okay.
Because it's pulling out some things that are going to tie in later. Some empires that a lot of people probably never even heard of before.
I'll put it in chat now. First Mexican Empire. The Mexican Empire, pronounced Imperio Mexicano, was a short-lived monarchy and the first independent post-colonial imperial state in Mexico. It was the only former colony of the Spanish Empire to establish a monarchy after independence. Together with the Brazilian Empire and the two Haitian empires, it was one of four European-style empires in the Americas. It lasted 2 years before transition into Federal Republic. Hold on, let me get that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all you needed to cover, showing that you have a Brazilian Empire and two Haitian empires. Basically, how we covered about family members fighting for power, trying to set up shop.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you have, after so-called independence, family members that were still there from other houses.
Right.
Remember, you have to come from a house to set up an empire. So these are people from houses trying to set up independent empires. And it's not a long time ago. First, Haitian Empire started in 1804.
Mm-hmm.
I think the second Haitian Empire, 1849. Hey, like I said, whoever knew they had empires in 1804 to 1806 and 1849 to 1859, and that's our 80.
And they're actually copied, or they are mimicking the Roman Empire's style of monarchs or monarchy.
The Brazilian Empire lasted to 1828. It was just looking at the dates because they're going to come back in.
Okay. So keep that in mind, y'all. So now we're going to talk about the federal independence period. That's where I was just reading from. So it says, in 1823, a revolution in Mexico ousted Emperor Agustin de Iturbide, and the new Mexican Congress voted to allow the Central American intendancies to decide their own fate. So prior to that, they did not decide their own fate. They were not independent intendancies. It says that year, the United Provinces of Central America was formed of the 5 Central American intendancies under General Manuel Jose Arce, spelled A-R-C-E. The intendancies took the name of the states. So the intendancies now took the name of their individual states. All right. Among the most important figures of the federal era included the first democratically elected president in Honduras. So in 1824, they had their first democratically elected president in Honduras. Dionisio de Herrera, who was a lawyer whose government began in 1824, established the first constitution. General Francisco Morazan, federal president from 1830 to 1834, and 1835 to 1839, whose figure embodies the ideal American unionist. And Jose Cecilio del Valle, editor of the Declaration of Independence, signed in Guatemala on 15 September 1821, and foreign minister of Mexico in 1823. So there's starting to be a changing of the guard, as it were, because of this new election, this first democratically elected president, Dianciso de Herrera. So it goes on to read that soon social and economic differences between Honduras and its regional neighbors exacerbated harsh partisan strife among Central American leaders and brought the collapse of the Federation from 1838 to 1839. General Morazan led unsuccessful efforts to maintain the Federation. Restoring Central American unity remained the official stated chief aim of Honduran foreign policy until after World War I. So General Morazan, he wanted to maintain the Federation and restore some sense of foreign policy, to Honduras. Then it goes on to read that Honduras broke away from the Central American Federation in October 1838 and became independent and sovereign states. Bones, quick question. Do you remember around what time frame that Jamaica broke away from their confederation?
I can pull it up real quick. I don't want to misquote it.
Because it sounds familiar to this one. I think Jamaica broke away from their confederation later in the 1800s. I think it was like possibly between 1870 and 1880s. But it just sounds familiar. So while he's reading it, I'm going to go on and read the democratic period between 1838 and 1899. Is Comayagua was the capital of Honduras until 1880, when it was transferred to Tegucigalpa. I remember in Spanish class trying to say Tegucigalpa was the Ciudad de Honduras. In the decades of 1840 and 1850, Honduras participated in several failed attempts to restore Central American unity, such as Confederation of Central America from 1842 through 1845. The Covenant of Guatemala in 1842, the Diet of Sassanate, 1846, the Diet of Nacaome in 1847, and the National Representation in Central America, 1849 through 1852. Okay. Then it goes on to read that although Honduras eventually adopted the name Republic of Honduras, the unionist ideal never waned, and Honduras was one of the Central American countries that pushed hardest for the policy of regional unity. In 1850, Honduras attempted to build, with foreign assistance, an interoceanic railroad from Trujillo to Tegucigalpa and then to the Pacific coast. The project stalled due to difficulties in the work, corruption, and other issues in 1888. Ran out of money, and when it reached San Pedro Sula, resulted in its growth until the nation's main industrial center and second largest city. Since independence, nearly 300 small international rebellions and civil wars have occurred in the country, including some changes of the government. So, I don't know if y'all was paying attention, which I'm sure y'all were. Let me read what the chat had to say. LJ Free says, Waldo has gotten kind of good at hiding amongst his relatives. When I think Canada, I think French, not Latino. I've got to type.
Yeah, you got to remember, where would a Micmac at? Up there in Canada. So where was Latino created? Up there in Canada.
Exactly.
Yep.
Free broke out.
Yes,
right? Free broke out. Right? What was I about to talk about? 1850s, Honduras attempted to build a foreign assistance. And with foreign assistance, take this out. With foreign assistance, who do you think who the foreigners were dealing with the interoceanic railroad? Who are those foreigners? 1850 Reconstruction era happened in 1850, and all of a sudden Honduras attempts to build it with foreign assistance an interoceanic railroad from Trujillo to Tegucigalpa. So the foreign assistance was America, because they were doing the same thing. History is not isolated. It happens simultaneously. It's contiguous.
You really think? And we asked the question a while ago. They brought a whole bunch of railroad workers over to build the railroads. Once the railroads was missing, were built, where did these people go? Some of them got shipped off out there to South America to build railroads, in Central America to build railroads. Explaining why you have an Asian presence in certain areas. But this is the part they don't want to tell you. Look at the years. Reconstruction going on over here at the same time they reconstruction Central America.
And we have to ask ourselves, what are they reconstruction? What are they reconstruction? Now you got to realize now, mid 1850s, we are pretty much at the middle point of the Irish and the Germans coming into the Americas, pouring in. Unions are being created in Ohio, trying to control the workers, right? You still have Indians moving out west. You still have that. What year was that? The act that was passed that if you helped the South, they took your land. That was in what, 61 to 62?
1861 and 1862 Confiscation Act, to where if they believe that you helped the South during the war in any way, they can repossess your land and all property, all possessions. So that's again the 1861 to 1862.
So you're talking about 10 years after Reconstruction, then they start taking land. Why? They had to accommodate all these people that were coming from Europe. They had to move the Indians. Again, this is how America does stuff. They're going to give you the opportunity to freely move. Then they're going to incentivize. Is that a word? Incentivize? They're going to incentivize you to move. Then they're going to make you move. So this trek that they're having us going to Ghana, when the head of tourism says, we apologize for allowing y'all to be taken as slaves, and now Ghana's reaching out its arms, and then you have this, all of a sudden you have this act where there's this celebration for 400 years of slavery, which by the way ends in June of 2020, right after the census ends. But anyway. So now they're giving us the opportunity to move to Ghana of our own free will, and everybody gets a passport that you got to pay for. But if you're from Ghana, supposedly, then you wouldn't need a passport. You wouldn't need a visa. Visa means you're visiting. Pay attention. If I'm from Ghana, go ahead, Bones.
And if you study this, you'll realize Reconstruction did not happen for the reasons they try to tell you it happened. See, Reconstruction, about 1890, is when it really hit major hard, when they were assassinating people. So you have to look at everything they did before. They knew they were bringing a class in. They started shifting people around. You can even see them starting to build transportation routes, railroad systems, depots in the middle of nowhere, because they already knew they were bringing a mass amount of people here. So once they got them here, then they started Reconstruction. But the key is the word reconstruct. Can't reconstruct it unless it was already constructed.
And Free says, what was Napoleon doing while this railroad is being built? Where was he? That's a good question. 1850s. Where is Napoleon Bonaparte?
Because you remember, what started all this, Napoleon conquered Spain. But we can't even say conquered. It's just transferring from one house to another house, really. Yeah. I mean, because what he did was no different than what they was doing. how many brothers and cousins and nephews we done read was killing each other for power. And did anybody find out what happened to Fernando's 2 sons?
They still in prison.
Them boys still missing. That's a weird conversation.
Well, I know.
You know I love you.
In 1840, he was in France. So hold on, it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
It just only last thing it says that I can see about Napoleon. It says in October 1850, Napoleon was exiled to the remote British-held Isles of St. Helena in the South Atlantic Ocean. He died there on May 5th, 1821, at the age of 51. So by 1850 he had transcended. Yeah, so
he was at the start of it. He would only been there around the start.
Yeah, so 1821, when Honduras was under new regime and was voting, he was already dead. That may be a reason why they was able to have a first democratic election, because he was no longer ruler.
Yeah, that's why you had people able to start fighting for different seats and different positions. Because remember, he went into Spain, changed that. Then the Spanish colonies, they started revolting. Then they just started putting their own in power, different family members.
Yeah, and Free raises a good point. She says Napoleon's defeat in Haiti led to him reaching out to Andrew Jackson for help, which led to embargoes, which are still in place against Haiti, hence their forced poverty, which led to the Louisiana Purchase. Man, that's a great timeline reference, Free. Yeah, the United States still has an embargo against Haiti. I bet you they don't tell you that. You ain't learned that in history, did you? Right, Labori, they already had it planned out. So by this time he's already transitioned.
That's why I'm gonna keep saying again. What history is showing me, all these people that told you fight and took their independence, no, they didn't. You buy independence. That's the messed up part.
And it's very expensive. You go from individual slavery to a whole state being a slave, and then you have sub-slaves, and they become employees of the state. And they pay through taxes. So in 1850s, we're looking at the railroad, transatlantic railroad. And they're building a railroad, or attempting to build a railroad, from Trujillo to Tegucigalpa and then on to the Pacific coast. It said the project stalled due to difficulties in work, corruption, and other issues. Sounds like the same challenges that they were having in the Americas. Because of what? The unions. Unions coming in and disrupting because they wanted more money. And those people that built the railroads up north in America, don't you think they came south and they came with their same tendencies, their same ideologies, and their same problems and same issues, working for pennies on a dollar? Like, no, you're not doing this. We're gonna unionize, and we're gonna get rid of this corruption.
But I thought they were slaves, though. They getting paid?
I mean, I used to be a union steward. Yeah, you get paid. You get paid better than the workers.
Well, could it be because a slave is an indentured servant and an indentured servant is an employee?
No comment. I'll let much smarter people than me figure that one out.
I said like I said this yesterday, that 13th Amendment made slavery legal. So either way, you're going to be a voluntary slave or involuntary slave. That's your two choices.
LJ Free says, why do unions matter if you have slaves or not Slavs? Key point.
Because they was employees.
So in 1850, Honduras, I already read that already. So it says in 1888, they ran out of money when it reached San Pedro Sula, resulting in its growth into the nation's main industrial center and second largest city. Since independence, nearly 300 small internal rebellions and civil wars have occurred in the country, including some changes of government. So we already see right now the United States has already got its hands in New Mexico. Y'all know what New Mexico events are becoming, right? That version of New Mexico. But again, political stability and instability both aided and distracted the economic revolution which transformed Honduras through the development of plantation economy on the North Coast. As American corporations consolidated increasingly large land holdings in Honduras. Stop.
Phenomena. And you just spoke on it. Next line. You couldn't write this as a movie right now and falling into place like this going.
It says political stability and instability both aided and distracted the economic revolution, which transformed Honduras through the development of a plantation economy on the North Coast. And then it reads, as American corporations consolidated increasingly large land holdings in Honduras. How are they getting land holdings in land in Honduras? It says they lobbied the U.S. government to protect their investments. Conflicts over land ownership. Conflicts over land ownership, peasant rights, and U.S.-aligned comprador class of elites led to armed conflicts and multiple invasions of U.S. Army forces. Stop.
Doesn't that sound like what they were doing to our ancestors on over here? Same thing.
It's the exact same
Set
thing.
up a business, then you need protection for your business interests. Justification for removing people.
Comprador. It says, I'll put this in the chat. It says a comprador or compradore is a person who acts as an agent for foreign organizations engaged in investment, trade, or economic or political exploitation. A comprador is a native manager for a European business house in East and Southeast Asia, and by extension, social groups that play broadly similar roles in other parts of the world. Really?
Mm-hmm.
An agent for a foreign organization engaged in investment. Doesn't that sound like an Indian agent?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Comprador or compadre. Compadredore is a person who acts as an agent for the foreign organizations engaged in investment, trade, or economic or political exploitation. A comprador is a native manager, meaning somebody that's from Honduras for a European business. So, a native manager for a European business, whether it be Spanish, French, or Dutch, which are all Germans, housed in East and Southeast Asia, and by extension, social groups, they play broadly similar roles in other parts of the world. So the term comprador is a Portuguese word. Portuguese, let's not get it twisted, it's Iberian, from the Iberian Peninsula, which is the west coast of Europe. It's a word that means buyer, derives from the Latin compadare, which means to procure. The original uses of the word in East Asia meant a native servant in European households in Guangzhou in southern China, or the neighboring Portuguese colony of Morocco, who went to market to barter their employers' wares. The term then evolved to mean the native contract suppliers who work for foreign companies in East Asia, or the native managers of firms in East Asia. Compradores held important positions in southern China, buying and selling tea, silk, cotton, and yarn for foreign corporations, and working in foreign-owned banks. Robert Hatton, a late 19th century comprador of the British-owned trading conglomerate Jardine Matheson and Company, was believed to be the richest man in Hong Kong by the age of 35. Lian Feng partly functioned as a Canton comprador in its early stages. So this basically proves and supports the fact that all this stuff was happening simultaneously. Because there are already East Asian interests in Honduras, which goes back to what you were saying about the Chinese being sent over here to work on the railroads, and of course the mines, because of their diminutive size and be able to defend those mine shafts.
Giving you your Asian influence over there.
Can't make this stuff up. But you could, but it wouldn't be as good.
Yeah, this is the bestseller. Wait a minute, how long people been believing this story? Bestseller. Best story of all times.
This is crazy. Then it goes on to talks about, hold on. It says conflicts over land ownership, peasants' rights, and U.S. aligned comprador classes of elites led to armed conflicts and multiple invasions by U.S. armed forces. Right, because now they have to protect their investment, so now they can bring their military onto these foreign soils, which goes back to what I've always said. Which goes back to what I've always said. It's amazing how the United States of America has military bases in over 800 different jurisdictions all over the globe. But none of them jurisdictions have near military presence on our soil. Has anybody ever asked how is that possible? You have a United States, you have a military base in London.
Yep.
But London ain't got no military base here.
But 190 countries on the planet, they have a base in 130 of them.
And don't none of them 130 countries have a base in the United States? Okay. Do some research on why that is. We are the world police. They call the United States the world police for a reason. Don't get it twisted.
Mm-hmm. AKA, we'll kick in your door, show us you got one.
First we'll build it, then we'll kick it in. So, let's see, where am I at? It says, in the first decades of the century, U.S. military insurgencies took place in 1903, 1907, 1911, 1912, 1919, 1924, and 1925. Man, those sound like some lottery numbers. Whoever don't believe in the lottery might want to go play that. If you believe in the lottery, you might want to go play them numbers. 3, 7, 11, 12, 19, 24, and 25.
But it also shows you how recent it all happened, too.
Mm-hmm. It says, because the country was effectively controlled by American fruit corporations, it was the original inspiration for the term Banana Republic. What? Whoa.
One more time.
Because the country was effectively controlled by American fruit corporations, it was the original inspiration for the term Banana Republic. So hold on. You mean to tell me, based off of this information we're reading from Wikipedia with sources, American fruit corporations controlled Honduras.
You said it. It's here.
I encourage those of you who have the time to please research this. So now it's going to give us some more information.
They telling you.
Yeah.
They telling you. American fruit companies. So who independent again? What? Again, what's in your wallet?
And when they say that, think about this. They're asking you for your papers, boy. Who your people? What is your identity? Who are you? Can you prove who you are? Golden Moon, aka AKD, says they have embassy offices here though. Yeah, they got embassy offices, but those embassies, they don't have the jurisdiction that the United States military does. The United States military is sovereign, and they can pretty much create they create an extension of the military by working with those forces, those police forces that are there.
Look at it this way. There's not one foreign nation, not one in fiction, movies, comic books that set up a foreign military base on this soil.
And that's somebody that served in the military. And look, that's somebody that served in the military from 88 to 92. I could tell you, being in, Thailand, Philippines, Korea, that the military bases have sovereignty. Unless you're committing a heinous crime, if you get picked up and put in jail outside of the base, your superior will come and get you out of jail, and then you will be tried based off of the Uniform Military Code of Justice. UCMJ.
Yeah, the military got their own court.
Right.
Military tribunal. They have their own court.
Right.
Matter of fact, the military is a non-profit organization, relatives. It's non-profit.
So yeah,
Their own constitution bylaws. Basically, outside of the law, it's a heinous crime, like TMH just said.
Yeah, and if you make it to your base, if a foreign entity wants to come get you, they have to. The MPs will not let them on unless they are authorized by their commander to let the police on base. They don't care who it is. So don't get it twisted. Try to run up on a military base if you want to, see what happens. Talk to somebody that was a military
They calling the
police.
police on the military. Oh, I can tell you how that's going to end.
They call them MPs for a reason. Talk to some of your relatives who have been military police and see what they tell you. So
Yeah, that ain't gonna end pretty for you.
Mike Eason says, put those numbers in the chat. What numbers you talking about, Mike? LJ Freeze says, Republic, Banana Republic. She says, ick is right. Well, that's where we get a lot of our fruits. They're imported.
Tequila.
Mm-hmm. So it says, rise of U.S. influence in Honduras from 1899 to 1919, right before the Great Depression hit. 1899, the banana industry in Honduras was growing rapidly. A peaceful transfer of power from Policarpo Bonilla to General Teresio Sierra marked the first time in decades that a constitutional transition had taken place. By 1902, railroads had been built along the country's Caribbean coast to accommodate the growing banana industry. However, Sierra made efforts to stay in office and refused to step down when a new president was elected in 1902 and was overthrown by Manuel Bonilla in 1903. Mines!
I don't care what you say. I ain't going nowhere. New president. What? The new president?
Who told you was president? Original Tiller says, peace, fam, peace to the panel and the chat. I'm driving a produce truck now. The majority of the produce came from Mexico. Can't make this stuff up.
But see, now let's add this part onto it. At the same time, this farmland that these American companies are putting together in Central and South America, it's the same time they're removing farmland from the American Indian in the North Americas.
Say it again.
At the same time, these U.S. companies are setting up this farmland in Central and South America. At the same time, they're confiscating farmland from the American Indian. And they're moving the whole business model away from you. Think about it. They moved it from the East Coast all the way to Central America.
Labor was cheaper.
But it boxed you out.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. How you gonna box an Indian farmer out from growing on land that he always knew about? Simple. Start wars, do all this fighting. But at the same time, while you fighting these little funny little wars, you setting up shop over here in Central America. So by the time everybody start this fighting and land being taken, you already got a whole industry set up that the American Indian been locked out of for at least 100 years. By the time you realize what happened.
I'm trying to look for the first farm bill that started paying farmers not to farm. I cannot type today. Okay, so I'm reading this. It says, looking at the Farm Bill, short history and summary. It says, since the nation's beginnings, we have had policies to incentivize production of staple crops, wheat, corn, cotton, etc., that are essential to society. Prior to the 1930s, the policy consisted largely of granting land to pioneer families, offering credit and supporting them through research colleges known as land grant institutions. Stop. You already know about that, because what they was doing was they was using the Indians to teach these people, and then once they taught them and they got their degrees, then they got rid of the Indians. They moved them into reservations, or they moved them into ghettos. The mechanical revolution of the early 1900s revolutionized the world market for the staple crops and also gave farmers the ability to multiply their output by farming more ground in the United States. As prices for goods plummeted, farmers plowed more ground to try to make up for the loss of income. This reality coincided with the terrible drought affecting our heartland and the Great Depression affecting our cities, set the stage for the first farm bill, the Agricultural Adjustment Act of 1933. Now, what time frame are we talking about over here? So this is from 1819 to 1990. So this is not happening yet, but this is where we're going. It says, realizing that the land was most precious resource of the economic incentive for any single farm family was to produce more. The original Farm Bill provided incentives for individual farmers not to overproduce, thereby seeking to stabilize the marketplace. The Agricultural Stabilization and Conservation Services were established in virtually every county in the nation to catalog our nation's farmland and to work with farm families to increase productivity and take care of the land. Really, that was not the reason why it was done. But that's the reason why they say they did it, started in 1933. But they've already got farmland in other areas.
Exactly. You notice they put this in once they knew they had the farmlands of Central, South America locked in. Once these companies already had their hands tied in, then they started doing a lot of it. It was already set up. They knew they had land to give these people. Remember again, 1861, 1862 Confiscation Acts.
Mm. Right quick, I want to give a shout out to the Ohio Play. He says, I found a few land patents in my family. That's what's up. Now, what you want to do is you want to cross-reference those to the colonial laws at the time, and that may show you why that land was taken, why that land was confiscated, and who actually owns that land now, and you might be able to get it back. Just a thought. Mike Easton says you typing real hard. Well, that and the microphone is right next to the keys too, so it ain't all me. It's just the microphones pick up everything. Go ahead.
Don't miss what the chat said. What did the chat say? Tap, 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 tap. Tap, 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 tap. This is what it sounds like when keys cry.
Don't do that. No.
I acted it out for y'all. Okay, y'all got one more for me to act at. One more, just one more. Let me stop.
So we doing okay.
But yeah, it's interesting that, like we always keep saying, you can't look at history as isolated events. The way they taught you to look at it as isolated events will always confuse you because it wasn't isolated events. All this ties in, all of this goes hand in hand in this grand scheme. Come on, you see these people had deals with Chinese people in South America. And you wonder why people look at Asian. And that's not even a shot. I'm just saying it's showing you why. And this didn't happen because of no land bridge. No, we talking about late 1800s, early 1900s. Man.
I'm just saying. Because the way they got it already set up. They got land here in Honduras, and there's no telling. Think about this, because Honduras is in. Look at where Honduras is. You think this is the only place that the United States is farming and have corporations? The way they bank is set up, see, they got a checking and a savings, and a savings and a checking, and it takes 2 days for the produce to get produced, and y'all do the rest. So it says where we at? In 1899, okay, where we at? Oh yeah, second paragraph. It says, after toppling Sierra Bonilla, conservative, imprisoned ex-presidents Policarpo Bonilla, a liberal rival, for 2 years, and made other attempts to suppress liberals throughout the country, as they were the only other organized political party it says they were the only organized political party. The conservatives were divided into a host of personalist factions and lacked coherent leadership. But Bonilla reorganized the conservatives into a national party. The present-day National Party of Honduras, Partido Nacional de Honduras, PNH, traces its origins to his administration. So he actually went and got organized. Can anybody say nonprofit? I'm just saying. No. Okay. Ohio player said, thanks, I got a few leads, but it's gotten weird with my French ancestors.
Join the club.
Yeah, them. Whew. Yeah, you find out French start popping up everywhere in your ancestry. Well, start looking in the French archives. See what you can find. If you know the locations, start there. And also pay attention to the timelines to see if the French actually had control during that time when you're doing your genealogy. Because if not, and it was England, or if it was, Germany, pay attention to that.
Yeah, and don't let nobody tell you nothing no different. What was that, 2 weeks ago as well? And we probably need to highlight that again. That the French been keeping records since the 1300s. They were keeping birth certificates and death certificates since the 1300s. Mm-hmm. Written records. So don't let nobody tell you there's no written history. Because if there wasn't no written history, how are they translating tablets? I'm just saying.
Exactly. He said it was Indian removal. Wow. Well, let's know if there's anything that we can do to help. It's crazy. So moving on. Next paragraph. It reads, Bonilla proved to be an even better friend to the banana companies than Seattle. Under Bonilla's rule, companies gained exemptions from taxes and permission to construct wharves and roads. What's a wharves? WHARVES. Does anybody know what that word is? Wharves.
If I remember correctly, off the top of my head, it's a ship. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong. Still look it up.
Yeah, let me look it up. A wharf.
Like a fisherman's wharf. It's either like a dock, a pier, something to do with a boat, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because they are on the coast. Okay, yeah, wharf. Quay Straith is a structure on the shore of a harbor or a bank of a river or canal where ships may dock to load and unload cargo or passengers. Okay.
Mm.
I'm like, what? Okay, it makes sense now.
Basically, we call it a pier.
So under Bonilla rule versus Seattle, where Seattle didn't want to move. He was like, I'm not, y'all not moving me. I'm the president. Mines. Anyway, it says under Bonilla. It says exactly. It says under Bonilla rule, where they do that at. It says under Bonilla rule, companies gain exemptions from taxes and permission to construct roads, wharves, and roads. Then it says as well as permission to improve interior waterways and to obtain charters for new railroad construction. And what that means when they say improve interior waterways, now they can start building dams. Whenever they talk about improving, they're talking about changing the structural landscape.
Yeah, improving their chances to take more land. They ain't coming improving for you. Their improvement is the hijack on you. What?
So he gave them carte blanche. They was able to just come in there and just wreck shop all in Honduras. It says he was don't do that. It says he was also successfully established the border with Nicaragua and resisted an invasion from Guatemala in 1906. After fending off Guatemalan military forces, Bonilla sought peace and signed a friendship pact with both Guatemala and El Salvador. Stop. So they make it sound like Bonilla was a Billy Bad Butt, but we already know that because corporations had to protect their interests, who helped Bonilla with the invasion of Guatemala?
We already know who did it. Same people that's setting up all these terrorist groups today.
So, because I promise you that the military, the United States military, the United States Armed Forces, where there are branches, there is a military branch somewhere in Honduras.
Yeah, there's a U.S. base there. We got all the years of the so-called war on drugs and all. Man, they set up so many bases over there doing that baloney. War on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Why Tylenol's still here, but I digress.
So, yeah, Bonilla wasn't the bad behind that people may think he was. He had help. United States Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine help. So, just put it in its proper perspective. Nicaragua's president, Jose Santos Zelaya, saw his friendship pact as an alliance to counter Nicaragua and began to undermine Bonilla. Zelaya supported liberal Honduran exiles in Nicaragua in their efforts to topple Bonilla, who had established himself as a dictator. So you know the military of the United States had something to do with that. They placed him in there. Why?
Basically, so every place on the planet where there's a dictator, yep, you got that right, my brother.
Because they need a totalitarian rule. And the only way the United States can get anywhere and do what they do is to place a dictator or somebody with totalitarian rules so they can have access to the resources. Yep. Free said it best. Millionarians turned into military. So check this out. It says he had established himself as a dictator. Okay, so this says, supported by elements of Nicaraguan army, the exiles invaded Honduras in February of 1907. With the assistance of Salvadorian troops, Manuel Bonilla tried to resist, but in March, his forces were decisively beaten in battle, notable for the introduction of machine guns into Central America. After toppling Bonilla, the exiles established a provisional junta, but this junta did not last. And then the next paragraph starts with American elites notice. It was in their interest to contain Zelaya, protect the region of the new Panama Canal, and defend the increasingly important banana trade. So because of them placing Bonilla, when I say them, I'm talking about the Americans, placing Bonilla in power, they were able to build a take two. Because of the Americans placing Bonilla in control as a dictator, they were able to build the Panama Canal under the guise of improving the waterways.
I mean, let's pause for a second and think about it. Before they set up shop in our home, didn't they form the companies first?
Mm-hmm.
Dutch East Indian Trading Company, West Trading Company, this company, Virginia Colony Company. All of these names of a lot of these colonies and things, if you look it up, they're LLCs.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they set up shop. They set up business first. And by them setting up business, gave them the excuse for coming in and removing people. It's just like if you built the shop, you selling. Whatever your products is, you walk out the door, you got these people around here that's making it hard for you to make some money. What you gonna do? Hey, Philip, we can make a whole lot of money over here, but we got too much competition. Send them soldiers over here so we can remove some of these people and we can get it all. Remember, capitalism did not start in America. It started in Europe and they brought it to America. Make no mistake about it.
Yeah, and they laid it over top of our nonprofit organizations and setups, the way we set up our tribes, turned those nonprofit organizations into churches and then into universities. So,
remember, capitalist. Break down the word. Capital. Capitalist. Capitalize. What are they capitalizing on? You.
The labor. And Free says, and look how improved the waterways are to this day. Yeah, go ask some people out there and what is it?
It's so improved. It's so improved. You got to buy bottled water from these same companies that messed up your land. That's how improved it is.
Mm-hmm. Two witnesses says no cap, right? No cap on what they can do, no cap on their income, no cap on what they will do to the land and everything.
Come on, think about it. Every year they have a vote on raising the debt ceiling. And people sit back and don't understand what that means. They raising a ceiling on how much more debt they can put you in. They ain't paying it back. We are.
That's actual and factual, to quote TLC. Everything's coming for full circle. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. So then again, it says the American elites notice it was in their interest to contain Zelaya, protect the region of the new Panama Canal, and defend the increasingly important banana trade. This Nicaragua-assisted invasion by Honduran exiles strongly displeased the United States government. But wait a minute. I thought it was only the produce companies that were involved in what was going on.
These U.S. companies, who do they pay their taxes to? U.S. government.
So they partner with the government. Mm-hmm. So the government, so not only are the fruit companies displeased, the U.S. government is displeased. And you know what happens when the world police ain't pleased?
Yeah, they like, Chiquita, we don't need that payment this week. Chiquita like, man, listen, these natives and some of these Iberians that's left, they making it hard for us to make that payment this month. Oh, really? Don't worry about it. Next thing you know, Civil War break out. Somebody assassinated. Somebody new put in the jail. Business as usual.
Mm-hmm. So it says, which concluded that Zela wanted to dominate the entire Central American region. So here's the thing. The government concluded that. Zela didn't say that. Zelaya. He didn't say that. The government made its own assumption. So who told him that? Again, creating these narratives. That's no different than let's not look at Honduras as any different than the Americas. Look at these places as tribes. Then you have a very good ideology or an idea of what's happening all over again.
Mm-hmm. The ones that want to stay get converted. The ones that don't, they get pushed out to the outskirts.
So the United States government sent Marines to Puerto Cortes to protect the banana trade. What does that sound like? Let's do a recap right quick. You are on your ancestors are on their land in North Carolina. They go to some other property to leave that land for 10 years so that the soil can replenish. The mayor or the governor of that area decides to bring some foreigners in to start farming that land. 10 years later, your people come back and there's a whole daggone city on your land. So what you do? You get them up out of there. There's a fight. Those people who don't even know that the Indians were there originally, or they may not know, now go complain to who? The government. We out here getting shellacked by these Indians. We need your help. What happens? There's a war. Then what happens? There's a treaty signed. Then what happens to those Indians? They get moved out. Same
Either
story,
to move.
different area. It's the same story.
Yep. And if you notice, they did it on the mainland here, the islands in North America, because you see they in the 800s, in the early 1900s, is where they're moving these people majorly around. And as these people are running more up north to get away from this, and they're pushing us more down south, you can see the compacting of many different Indian tribes into particular areas, causing more confusion, allowing them to create classes like Cherokee and throw a whole bunch of adopted Indians who tribes that you broke up. Come on, man.
All the meanwhile, bringing in replacements and different people, even people that look like us, and then misclassifying them and got everybody thinking they mixed up. And then you want to classify everybody as African. How you gonna classify me as African? My people been here since before you got here. But I digress.
I mean, last I remember, some places in Africa that people want to claim, why they not talking about them colonies in the 1500s that were German? Same West African places, German colonies. I mean, think about it. Argentina is German. It's a German colony.
I'm just saying. So let's go on and see what the Marines do. Not only did they bring, not only the government. No. Let's tell like it is. Not only did these fruit farmers, these fruit corporations bring in the Marines, the U.S. naval units were also sent to Honduras and were able to successfully defend Bonilla's last defense position at Amapaya in the Gulf of Fonseca. The Navy.
And to put in,
go ahead, bro.
And to put into a broader context of what's really going on, This is 1907, relatives. The year is 1907. At the same time this is happening, what is happening to a lot of our ancestors that are still landowners? Aren't they burning up our cities, burning down our towns in North America, on the East Coast and West Coast, at the same time this is happening down in the South? Remember, these are the same times of these Negro Wall Streets. 1910, 1912, Rosewood, all these North Carolina. Could it been that they were eliminating trading partners that was already established before these American companies set up these fruit companies? Because somebody was moving this stuff before they set up their companies too.
Remember, a lot of the Indians got pushed south past what is known as Texas today. And they had already developed trade routes, and they were already working with, because remember, these are all the same people.
Yeah, just relocated to different areas.
So the United States naval units were also sent to Honduras and were able to successfully defend Bonilla's last defense position of Amapaya in Gulf of Fonseca. Through a peace settlement arranged by the U.S. charge de Affaires in Tegucigalpa, a peace settlement. So was it a peace settlement? So they don't call them treaties no more. Look, they don't call them treaties no more.
It was a peace settlement. The problem is we're in this bastardized, excuse the language, English language, because peace, you got P-E-A-C-E and P-I-E-C-E. What definition are they talking about? It was a peace settlement. They took a piece and they settled it that we're going to have this and you're going to get this.
You can get with this or you can get with that. I think you should get with this.
This is where it's at. That's basically what they were telling you.
Yeah, boy, it says peace settlement, my behind.
Yeah, they gave you a piece of the pie that you used to have. You used to have the whole pie. They came in and gave you a piece.
This is my pie now. But it's both
Your
of
settlement
ours.
is a piece of the pie now. Your settlement is a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
Just piece.
It's ours, but we're just gonna keep it in my house.
Yeah, that's it. But think about it. That's a perfect analogy, because now you have to ask permission to use what you used to have the right just to go outside and do. You want to plant something? Oh, contact your government. Want to grow something? Contact your government. Want to build something? Contact your government.
And this says, through the peace settlement arranged by the U.S. charge de Affaires in Tegucigalpa, Bonilla just stepped down and the war with Nicaragua came to an end. You know why Bonilla had to step down, right? Because he was supposed to be in control of this and he didn't. So the United States like, oh, you got to go. We're going to place somebody else in the head of this. Somebody that probably had a better relationship between that part of Honduras and where was it at? Hold on. El Salvador and Nicaragua. So it goes on to read that the settlement also provided for a compromise regime headed by General Miguel R. de Villa in Tegucigalpa. Zelaya, however, was not pleased by the settlement, of course, because he didn't like the piece that he got. As he strongly distrusted de Villa. Zelaya made a secret arrangement with El Salvador to oust de Villa from office. The plan failed to reach fruition. I wonder why. Zelaya made a secret arrangement with El Salvador and to oust de Villa from office. The plan failed to reach fruition, but alarmed American stakeholders in Honduras. Mexico and U.S. called 5 Central American countries into diplomatic talks at the Central American Peace Conference to increase stability in the area. Really? Really? Really?
We used to know how this story turns out.
Why is there always 5 people or 5 organizations together? You have the 5
And nobody knows how
civilized.
to make it to everybody.
Yeah, come on, man. Stop it. It says at the conference, the 5 countries signed the General Treaty of Peace and Amity in 1907, which established the Central American Court of Justice to resolve future disputes among the 5 nations. Honduras also agreed to become permanently neutral in any future conflicts among the other nations.
Don't that sound like
5
Iroquois
civilized
Confederation?
tribes.
You're seeing how they took the template on what they did on the northern Indians and doing it on the central ones. It's the same plan. They just, oh my goodness.
Mm-mm-mm. 1908, opponents of Davila made an unsuccessful attempt to overthrow him. I wonder why. Despite the failure of this coup, American elites became concerned over Honduran instability. The Taft administration saw that huge Honduran debt over 120 million. What? Darn. As a contributing factor to the instability and began efforts to refinance a largely British debt with provisions for United States Customs receivership of some similar arrangement. So in layman's terms, they're going to blame the debt that Honduras had, when in actuality the debt wasn't owned by them. British had that debt, so I'm thinking British wanted a piece of the pie, or they wanted something to do with this, because that debt belonged to Britain. So Britain was financially benefiting from the work that the United States had put in place.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody wanted to buy that debt out. Now, if I'm wrong, please let me know. I want to get it right. I ain't trying to be right. Says negotiations were arranged between Honduran representatives and New York bankers, headed by J.P. Morgan.
Man, look at here.
Did y'all know J.P. Morgan was all the way down in Honduras? By the end of 1909, an agreement had been reached providing for a reduction in the debt and the assurance of a new 5% bonds. The banks will control the Honduran Railroad, and the United States government will guarantee continued Honduran independence and will take control of custom review. Oh gosh. Come on, y'all. So now, Honduras is owned by the United States as of 1909. They bought that debt. You got to be kidding me. That's right, LJ Free. Buying up debt is big business. The rant, that's the same way I feel after reading this. There was a rising in 1911 against Davila, and it interrupted efforts to deal with the debt problem. The United States Marines again landed, which forced both sides to meet on a U.S. warship. The revolutionaries, headed by the former President Manuel Bonilla, and the government agreed to a ceasefire and the installation of a provisional president who would be selected by the United States mediator, Thomas Dawson. Dawson selected Francisco Bertrand, who promised to hold early free elections, and Davila was reassigned. Do y'all see what happened? What's the significance of all those parties meeting on the United States ship? Y'all know? It said both sides were forced to meet on the U.S. warship.
Maritime.
Maritime law. Who resides over that and who controls over it? Who controls that? Can't make this stuff up. 1912. Hold on, did we lose somebody?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, no sellout. Timed out. Grand Rising, James Flames. You know, you welcome to cut in and add and clear up this these concussion cobwebs we got anytime you're ready.
Oh, y'all good? Good.
LJ Free says, did y'all say H.R. Pickens? No, you said J.P. Morgan. Never mind. Rob Peter to pay Paul. How you buy debt when you've been in debt since inception? That's what Mr. TJ asks. Oh. So, all right. Where are we at? So, now we're talking about the 1912 elections. And they were won by Manuel Bonilla, who actually was one of the participants on the ship. Remember, he the one that created that revolt to mess up the debt negotiation. But he died after just over a year in office. I wonder why. It just so happens he died. Bertrand, who had been his vice president, returned to the presidency, and in 1916 won election for a term that lasted until 1920. Between 1911 and 1920, Honduras saw relative stability. Railroads expanded throughout Honduras, and the banana trade grew rapidly. Who owned the railroads by that time? Y'all remember?
And I bet you the vice president was handpicked by the U.S.
Yeah, they said he was handpicked.
Mm-hmm. To the point, so it makes you think, due death. Was it really natural?
Yeah, in the paragraph above it says Thomas Dawson selected Francisco Bertrand, who promised to hold early free elections. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I wonder why he was put in that situation. What did the bankers get in return for putting him in that position? Free reign over the banana trade and fruit trade?
Well, you realize.
And why was the bankers deal? Why was the bankers deal? This is a war. What the bankers are doing?
Well, they own the railroads. Remember, they bought out. They work with J.P. Morgan to buy that debt.
Mm-hmm.
And they had, and you know, there's insurance on that debt too. So just in case something happens, they're gonna get their money back.
Oh yeah.
Then they're gonna sell that debt to somebody else who's already just waiting. Shell corporations. Anyway, I'm moving on. Yeah. So where are we at? Oh yeah, I got it.
1911 and 1920.
Yeah, it says railroads expanded throughout Honduras and the banana trade grew rapidly. This stability, however, would prove to be difficult to maintain in the years following 1920. Revolutionary intrigues also continued throughout the period, accompanied by constant rumors that one faction or another was being supported by one of the banana companies.
Ooh, same old story.
Mm-hmm. One of the factions was being supported by the banana companies. Remember, corporations have vested interests. So if they got somebody on the inside controlling these wars and creating situations to where you can control production, thus an increase for demand because there's limited supply. What do? You can now increase the cost. and make people pay more
Yep.
because you have less. Just a thought.
Manipulating the market.
Then it says the development of the banana industry contributed to the beginnings of organized labor movements in Honduras and to the first major strikes in the nation's history. So all they did was create the same situation in the Americas that they created in Honduras. Same thing. And the first major strike in the nation's history. The first of these occurred in 1917 against the Cuyamel Fruit Company. The strike was suppressed by the Honduran military, but the following year, additional labor disturbances occurred at the Standard Fruit Company. Standard? I wonder if the Standard Fruit Company was a subsidiary of Standard Oil. But anyway, let's see here, know that. J.D. Rockefeller. Holding in La Ceiba. In 1920, a general strike hit the Caribbean coast. In response, a United States warship was sent to the area and the Honduran government began arresting leaders. Can you imagine having a United States warship just parked outside the coast? Like, what'd it do? Y'all got a problem over here? When Standard Fruit offered a new wage equivalent to $1.75 per day, the strike ultimately collapsed. Labor troubles in the banana trade, however, were far from over. So they increased their wages from whatever they were to $1.75 per day per person. And that killed the strike.
But to have a strike meant they had a union.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm gonna read this paragraph, and then we're gonna go from there. So now it talks about the fruit company's activities, like they did, like we have been talking about their activity all along. But anyway, the liberal government opted to expand production in mining and agriculture in 1876, began granting substantial grants of land and tax exemptions for foreign concerns as well as to local businesses. Mining was particularly important, and the new policies coincided with the growth of banana exports. Now, why was mining important? Mining was important because what did they need to fuel everything that they had? Coal. They needed the coal.
All these trains and steam engines, most definitely.
Yeah, remember, gasoline didn't come about until like the 30s, the 40s. Not as a consumable resource like that. So then it goes on to read that mining was particularly important and the new policies coincided with the growth of banana exports, which began in the Bay Islands in the 1870s and was pursued on the mainland by small and middling farmers in the 1880s. Liberal concessions allowed U.S.-based concerns to enter the Honduran market first as shipping companies, then as railroad and banana-producing enterprises. The U.S. companies created very large plantations worked by labor that flooded into the region from the densely settled Pacific coast, other Central American countries, and thanks to the company's policies favoring English-speaking people from English-speaking Caribbean. Stop.
Bring it in.
Stop.
The islanders to work.
I gotta. So Elboria says, what? Yes, Elboria. Look at how this is playing out. See, people think when they think plantations, they think slaves. Now, you had slaves and you had indentured servants, but these are fields. This is farmland where you have workers. However you want to title them.
A plantation is just a fancy word for a colony, a settlement.
Mm-hmm.
Look it up. That's all it is. They throw plantation in there because they gave you images and implanted in your mind to every time you hear the word to think of a slave, when that's not reality.
So here we go.
Company.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna go back and read it, and then I'm gonna read something that's a word that's interchangeable for those of you who believe that all people that were on plantations were slaves. I'm not saying that they weren't slaves. I'm just saying everybody that was on the plantation was a slave. Because the word slave comes from the word Slav. The E at the end of Slav did not become that way until 1788. So in 1787, prior, the word was Slav, which means people of European descent. So don't believe me.
They added this letter 2 years before the 1790 census. The first federal census is when right before they changed the Slav with the E.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna go back and read. Liberal concessions allow U.S.-based concerns to enter the Honduran market first as shipping companies, then as railroad and banana-producing enterprises. The U.S. companies created very large plantations worked by labor, not by slaves, but by labor, that flooded into the region from a densely settled Pacific coast and other Central American countries. And thanks to companies' policy favoring English-speaking people from the English-speaking Caribbean. What does that sound like, people? Do y'all remember Benjamin Franklin being upset about the swarthy Germans coming over from France and how they might wipe out the few whites that were already few all over the world? Because France wanted to flood the Americas with swarthy Germans. And the reason why they did that, because they had plantations and they needed some workers to labor to get the tobacco and the hemp.
And let's remember what swarthy means. Dark skin. Dub gale. Dub, dark. Fangale, fen, fair. Light, white.
So
is these people words.
So what
not
is
ours.
So what is Dublin and what is Finland? Never mind. Hold on. I'm Flying Squirrel says, don't they call them big factories plants? And plants are always moving.
Yeah. Plants. The reason why they plants is short for plantations. Plant.
Say it again.
That's all it is.
Say it again.
Plant is short for plantation. That's all a plant is. Short for plantation. And then you can use in the other size plant. Plants are deep rooted into the ground where they at.
I'm just saying, so. So they had Caribbeans, English-speaking Caribbeans, people from the Carib Islands, working in Honduras on these plantations. They said labor. They didn't say slaves. They said labor. So if these people were slaves, wouldn't they have said slaves here?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just asking. I could be wrong.
But really, what's the difference between a slave and an employee? Wording.
And the misconception that slavery is is synonymous with American or the United States.
How many slave narratives you done seen in your lifetime or heard in your lifetime where people said they were making $2 a week? Yes, it's not a livable wage, but they were paying them. Remember, 13th Amendment made slavery legal. If you can make it legal, a legal form of saying involuntary servitude in slavery is illegal unless convicted of a crime. So that means you have a legal form of it called work, employment.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. You get incarcerated. You don't want to go along with the system. You get incarcerated. You go to jail, you go to prison. what you gonna end up doing?
Working.
Working. The difference is one form you had the illusion of choice, the other one you don't.
That's all. So it goes on to say this result was an enclave economy centered on settlements and activities of the three major companies: Cayumel Fruit Company, Standard Fruit, and particularly United Fruit, after it absorbed Cayumel in 1930. And let me guess, Cayumel was the only Honduran company. What is an enclave economy? Let's look at that. Let's see. An enclave economy, I'll put this in the chat too. Yeah, we got to get ready to wrap this up too. An enclave economy.
We can go through this for them all. My bad.
No, you good. An enclave economy is defined as an economic system in which an export-based industry dominated by international or non-local capital extracts resources or products from another country. It was widely employed as a term to describe post-colonial dependency relations in developing world, especially in Latin America. As part of the larger theoretical position, usually called dependency theory, it was particularly popular in the 60s and 70s, and other issues took center stage in development economics at later periods. It was often associated with Marxism, thanks to writing by Paul Barron and Theotonio dos Santos. Though its tenets are only preferably tied. Though its tenets are preferably tied to the classic Marxist theory. According to the model, a large, well-capitalized firm, often located in North America or Western Europe, invests in the production of an export-produced product destined for markets in the investing country or region. Frequently, the country in question had been a colonial master. Even if the political chain was broken in considerable time before, it uses its capital and often political connections, both formal and informal, legal and illegal, to acquire land, access labor, and receive incentives such as tax breaks. These incentives in turn reduce the capacity of the host country to realize any financial or developmental benefits from the export. Now y'all know. Enclave.
What is this Marxist?
What is Marxist theory? Okay, Marxism.
Mm-hmm. This is very interesting because it's going to tell something in this. There are these theories again that they base some scientific facts off of.
Marxism is a method of socioeconomic analysis that reviews class relations and social conflict, using a materialist interpretation of historical development, and takes a dialectical view of social transformation. It originates from the works of 19th century German philosophers Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Stop.
Mm-hmm. Same people that gave you the out of Africa theory. You're German. Same people that gave you Darwinism. Same people, evolution. You're German.
Marxism uses a methodology now known as historical materialism to analyze and critique the development of class society, and especially of capitalism, as well as the role of class struggles in systemic economic, social, and political change. According to Marxist theory, in capitalist societies, class conflict arises due to contradictions between the material interests of the oppressed and exploited proletariat, a class of wage laborers employed to produce goods and services, and the bourgeoisie, a ruling class that owns the means of production and extracts its wealth through appropriation of the surplus product produced by the proletariat in the form of profit. It says the class struggle. Go ahead.
I said this is the theory that justifies how they maneuver around the world. They created a scientific theory to justify what they were doing.
It says Marxism uses a methodology now known as historical materialism to analyze and critique the development. Okay, so now it goes on to say this class struggle that is commonly expressed as the revolt of society's productive forces against the relations of production results in a period of short-term crisis as the bourgeoisie struggle to manage their intensifying alienation of labor experienced by the proletariat, albeit with varying degrees of class consciousness. In periods of deep crisis, the resistance of the oppressed can culminate into a proletarian revolution which, if victorious, leads to the establishment of socialism, a socioeconomic system based on social ownership at the means of production, distribution based on one's contribution, and production organized directly for use. As productive forces continue to advance, Marx hypothesized that socialism would ultimately be transformed into communist society, a classless, stateless, humane society based on common ownership and the underlying principle from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. Wow.
So their justification to breaking people up and putting you in the classes for production is to stop you from becoming socialist and communist?
Yep.
Woo! So why wasn't people socialists and communists before this theory?
Well, if you think about that definition, from their perspective, they could have viewed our ancestors as socialists because we had a 56-day work year, and the majority of our time was spent taking care of our own people, thus giving us more time to do what we needed to do. But the way they paint that picture is that, you know, there was no power struggle, or there was no one in power. Well, we didn't need to have anybody in power because we did what our Creator taught us to do. We took care of our own. So there was no homelessness. There was no poverty. There was none of that stuff. But anyway. So where we at?
Jabberwocky.
What you say, James?
I just said Jabberwocky. Guys are on it, man. Can y'all do me a favor?
What's that?
Just need a small favor. Will y'all?
Uh-oh.
When you talked about this system and how the socialism. Now, when you start really doing some research on, and I'm not. Yes, I am. I wasn't gonna try to make this on, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm sitting here and I just got $1.50 worth of gas, so I'm good.
Go ahead, bud. Go ahead. Do it.
You notice they never said these. They never used these phrases or terminology when it came to quote unquote Africans, but they gave this terminology to the Indians, quote unquote slaves that were already in the Americas.
Yep.
We had a 56-day work week. What did they used to say about the so-called Negro slaves over here? They were shiftless and lazy.
They used to be dragging their foot until master had to beat them. Yeah, I know. Remember that phrase?
So if the Africans, West Africans were already shiftless and lazy, why are you shipping them over here by the millions? The people that were already over here, because we understood, we took care of business, so we had dealing with more family time with your relatives. Y'all touched on something else too, but this is the favor that I need. I need you all to replace bananas. Let me get this word right. With cocaine. Replace that fruit, bananas, with cocaine. And then you'll find
Yep.
out what was going on in the Americas and how everything took off because of the teachers under Sigmund Freud. Oh, there's another German, hot giblet. And what they were doing in the medical field and in education. Cocaine was the answer to everything. Look at the conflict that was going on at that time between Honduras, Nicaragua, and everything else that was going on in that whole region there. And then you'll start to see why the U.S. was so involved. Then you keep fast forwarding, and the same thing keeps happening when you get to the Iran-Contra affair. They never changed the game. They never changed. Look at how they were doing with cocaine. Because now, at that era, where you're getting into all the conflict that was going on in Honduras and Nicaragua, and them actually putting leaders in position like they still do today, it was the steel. It was the Industrial Revolution. So you had to have workers to keep working and working and working and working. So if I had you to snort a couple of lines of cocaine, you up and going. Or if I had you to rub some cocaine on your teeth, you up and going. Now you can do a triple shift. Y'all gonna follow me in a minute. Change those.
To add into what Brother James is saying, cocaine in America before the 1950s, it states, calls for prohibition began long before the Harrison Narcotics Tax Act was passed by Congress in 1914, a law requiring cocaine and narcotics to be dispensed only with a doctor's order. Before this, various factors and groups acted on primarily at the state level, influencing a move towards prohibition and away from laissez-faire attitude. Cocaine consumption had grown in 1903 to about 5 times that of 1890, predominantly by non-medical users outside the middle age, white professional class. Cocaine became associated with laborers, youths, African Americans, and the urban underworld. And if people want to read more, I'll put that link in the chat right now, just to tie into what Brother James was saying.
So when did the United States get involved with Honduras? In the early 1900s, 1914? Sorry, go ahead, James.
Yep, they were involved before that. Like I said, you get back into the Panama Canal and everything that they were doing, and those English speaking. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. It's gonna get me in trouble, but I stay in trouble. No, I'm not in trouble. Trouble just always seems to surround me. I'm gonna say it. Those English speaking Caribs were your Jamaicans, Yamaicans, and all the rest of them that now are under British, and they still bow down to the crown and kiss the ring to this day. And they are the ones pushing this African American narrative. They started with the English speaking Caribs. No one else was talking that. None. And that's how even in Belize, aka British Honduras today, that's how you can separate those that bow down to the crown and those that don't. Look at the Garifino. I keep saying it again. You have some that talk about, oh, because we all came from Africa. And the rest of them say, no, we didn't. We're Carib. They all look alike, but you have those two facets of groups that are saying, one is saying, oh, we African. Well, why don't you go back to Africa then? Why are you still bowing down to the crown? And then those are other ones that are saying, we're Carib. We've always been here. Now, all it takes is asking some people and doing a little bit of research. You'll find out what's really going on. But replace that with cocaine, then fast forward what was going on in the 80s. All of a sudden, crack cocaine took over our neighborhood, and we always had the saying, none of us had planes, none of us have ships, So how is it getting here? And then after
But
they
the
gave you
U.S.
that-
military was there. U.S. military got boats. They got planes. Matter of fact, they don't need no passport to go international neither. No customs. What?
Thank you. Thank you. And you're going to see that the U.S. attacked Nicaragua in the 80s for what?
Them
Because
poppy
they
fields.
know that, oh, somebody's with me now. I got to go. I'll yield the mic. I'll fight this guy. Hey, oh, clip. Fix this traffic. I yield the mic.
Remember, they sent CIA into them countries in the 80s where they were supposed to be burning down the fields, but they were burning down the villages and taking over the fields. And as you study the so-called war on drugs, why the more drug territory they got, the bigger Tylenol became. Oops.
Now, you're not talking about that Tylenol with codeine, are you?
Well, you know it. Basically, anything that got that Dean and Ain in it. But be careful of that medicine that you be popping. Better read it. Dean and Ain, telling you where it's come from. Morphine, amphetamine, thisamine, natamine.
Nah, I mean,
I just wanted to toss that in there, yeah, because they really try to fool you, be like, oh, bananas. It's like they talk about over here, oh, it was cotton and all this and that. Like, no, they use it, and like I say, because we're in the digital age, they keep changing, shifting, because we know here in what we call Northern America, it was hemp. That was your major crop. Why don't you read about that in the history books anymore? They took it out. Same thing when you're reading down there in Nicaragua and Honduras, all in that region. Oh, bananas. Man, it was bananas growing all throughout the Caribbean islands. Why are you settling with going there to get bananas? Come on, son. It was cocaine. Cocaine. You're like, oh,
Why you think?
Cocaine. You cocaine?
Why do you think they was in Afghanistan? They didn't go to Afghanistan over policy. Afghanistan is the largest producer of heroin. Same reason for Vietnam. Matter of fact, didn't they have the opium wars? What's this, the 1800s, 1700s? 2 opium wars?
I thought it was 3.
Well, yeah, you can call this one the 3rd opium war. Wow.
I mean, so at the end of the day, what's the point? What's the reason for sharing this information? Why are we talking about what's going on in Nicaragua, Honduras, Jamaica? Why are we bringing this to y'all's attention? One, so you can see how everything ties in, and to see how we were all being colonized simultaneously, and how it's a war of 2 sides: Europe versus the Americas. Who's replacing who for birthright? That's why it's important to know who you are. Do your genealogy so you'll know where to start. That's pretty much it. Because there are going to be some people who tie back to the Indians in South America. So you got to know how all this plays out, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the thought.
And remember, no matter who you tie back to or what you tie back to, that doesn't define who you are. All of us have things that some of our ancestors did that need to be corrected. But remember, that don't define who you are. It's about taking and being accountable to fix it and not to be right, to get it right.
So it's about that time for us to let these good people get on about their way and continue to be contributors to their families, relatives, tribes, houses, clans, and enjoy their till Wednesday or with Friday or hump day or whatever y'all want to call it. So let's see if No Sellout is in a position to where he can give his salutations for this rising. No Sellout. Is there anything you want to say before we let these good people go about their business?
Peace to the chat. Peace to the panel. Thank everybody for showing up today on this Wolf Friday. Hope you learned something today. Hit us up in the email if you need anything from us. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Peace, y'all. Mic check.
Yeah, we heard you. He gonna say all that, then he gonna say mic check.
I was practicing. That was the rough draft. My bad.
That was a rough draft, and that was a rough draft, and the final.
You know what? I'm gonna turn that one in.
Yeah. It's I've already been graded. Yeah, I'll let you know what your grade was at the post-production meeting. Anyway.
All right.
Choctaw Jimmy, we always appreciate your time, man. Value your insight and your wisdom. Is there anything you want to leave for the people as they go out and help and contribute?
Just this, and I will be gone in 60 seconds. Is in my comedic way. Some people get it, some people don't. Why I do what I do, because as you go along this journey, sometimes you can get upset, and it can become very depressing, especially when you're trying to find out who you are. So a little laughter is medicine for the soul. I know some people don't believe in that; they don't have souls, but laugh every now and then. So I'm glad that we have a good time every rising when we do this, and I wanted to say, I do what I do, not to belittle anyone. It's just when you know who you are, don't let anybody else try to convince you that you're something that you're not. You can be whatever you want to be. But there's a slogan, some military slogan. But anyway, that's the reason why I do what I do. And as it was said before, there's a reason why certain foods that grow in the Caribbean, all throughout Mesoamerica and South America, you'll find these also in what we call North America. And you go into the Caribbean, you go into Mesoamerica, and you go into South America, you'll also find copper. But you know the copper mines were where? Outside the Great Lakes. So that lets you know that we were one people because we were trading with one another. And I'll say this, and then I'm done. Is you had what the British labeled as the Black Caribs, and the Black Caribs got with the Red Caribs and made the Yellow Caribs. And then they moved, and this was going on long before, even before the French were there. Everybody, it was like, oh, you like skin, oh, you do, it was none of that. And you want to see how the tradition keeps going, I guarantee you, if you got some photos of your great-grandparents, like mine, it would look like, one would look like the picture, and the other one would look like a negative. We've always been doing that. I guarantee you. So don't let the smooth taste fool you. It's those of us that were of darker hue got labeled African by the British. I say again, William Young. I know I went over my time, but William Young, Sir William Young, look him up. He started writing the history 100 years after this so-called two African slave ships crashed into the island. Come on, son. I yield the mic. Y'all have a good time. Best chat in the whole wide world. I appreciate you, brother TMA, brother Bones, brother No Sellout, Lady Free in the chat. I know Copper Indio is somewhere doing something, and I know my main man, Holy Man. I know you out there somewhere, brother Carrot. And the rest of y'all that don't understand why I do what I do, now you understand why I do what I do. A2, I'm telling you, I already gone places, already doing things, and I'm out this kind of taking my.
Thank you, Choctaw Jimmy. Definitely appreciate you, brother. I want to just say that, again, our job is not here to tell you who you are and who you are not. We're not here to create or set a narrative. We're here to get it right. And if there's something that we said that was inaccurate and needs to be corrected, send that information to autochthonousassembly@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on our website forum at autochthonousassembly.com/forum. We're just here to help you do your genealogy and find your people. I don't care who your people are. I'm not here to tell you who you are. So I can't tell you where you're from, but please don't tell me where I'm from when I've done my genealogy and I have my Indian card. And I know what tribe I'm from. And we go all the way back to the Mayan culture. Don't do that.
So, I thought Catawba Saponi is supposed to be a fake tribe.
Catawba, really? Catawba Saponi, a fake tribe? Okay, I tell you what.
Let some people.
I tell you
let
what.
somebody tell you.
No, I bet you. Okay, if that's the case, take your whole crew. Whoever said that, I dare you. I double dog dare you to go to South Carolina or even Ohio on their reservations and tell them they're a fake tribe and record it and see what happened. Because now you on their land. I bet you won't like the outcome. They're easy to find.
Lucky if they find the tape. You be lucky if they find the tape, because they ain't going to find you.
If they so fake, just carry your tail up there with your crew. All of y'all, every last one of y'all. Go there and tell them that they fake. Tell them they don't exist. And see what happened. Make sure you record it. I bet you won't make it back.
As my granddad used to say, all they doing is popping their gums and they won't even get off the porch. I yield the mic.
Okay.
Feeling froggy.
And this ain't, down south. It ain't New York. New York got gun laws. So you can pop off all that stuff in New York because can't nobody carry. You come down south, it's a different story down here. Run your mouth wrong if you want to. See what happened to you. End up missing. And we ain't talking about MSN, I'm just saying.
Find out how fast these Indians have you running back. Comes from they real, I tell you, they real.
Mm-hmm. People talk that mess about the South. They don't know. That's why they up north. So with that being said, man, we the goal is to have fun. A long time ago, I learned by having fun and being able to inject laughter into a serious situation. One, it allows you to relieve your stress. Two, it allows you to retain information. So that's why we do what we do. It's not to offend, it's to educate. And at the end of the day, when you know who you are, you're not going to let anybody tell you who you're not. I'm not going to let somebody that claims to be Aboriginal tell me I'm anything other than American Indian. I'm not going to let somebody that's Scottish tell me that I'm anything other than American Indian. I'm not going to let an African American tell me that I'm anything other than American Indian. And I'm not going to let somebody who's African tell me that I'm not American Indian. Because here's one thing I do know. I can take my information to a court of law and prove who I am. Can you? If not,
not one ancestral DNA test can be taken in the court of law to award you anything. Come on now, let's stop playing.
So, I'm not knocking your belief in pan African. I'm not saying that you're not an African. All I'm saying is I'm not. I don't have a problem with what you believe and what you know to be true, but don't tell me who I am and who I'm not, because I can show you better than I can tell you. I ain't a YouTube dude. Obviously, I've been looked up, so.
They can't get that part right. Let me stop. I'm sorry.
So, with that, I want to send a shout out and grand rising and have a great evening, great afternoon, great rising to the new subscribers. We thank you for taking your time out of your schedule to not only subscribe, but come check us out. Hopefully the information was helpful. And if not, you know what you got to do. I want to also say shout out to the Autochthonous Assembly, A2 Silent Majority. Y'all are where our numbers come from. You're the ones that are out there taking this information in and doing something positive, and you're taking this information and using it. So I want to say thank you. And for the best chat on the planet Earth, yes, I said it, Earth. Y'all know what it is. We appreciate y'all holding us accountable, making sure we stay on the right and narrow, and question anybody that come in with a question that ain't got no source. We appreciate y'all for doing what y'all do. Much love. And to the panel, y'all know what it is. Y'all make my job so easy over here. That's why I do what I do. I love it. One of these days we're gonna get a replacement for me, which I hope is sooner than later, but and look, don't be going to get Kevin Hart either. We can't afford him yet.
Oh, no.
Oh no, it was you, it wasn't you, but it was me. So Bones, bro, take us up out of here, and as always, I appreciate you for what you do, and I have a greater respect after yesterday than I did before yesterday, and you already know I have respect for you, so you're my man, 50 grand, my brother from another mother. Take us out. I'm done.
You know it is always a pleasure when we do this, my brother. As we go through this, let's remember this, relatives. A lot of us grew up when we were told that we didn't have a voice, or our voice didn't matter. Them days are behind us. We know we have a voice. Now it's time for us to use it. There is nothing for us to be afraid of. Our ancestors have been put through everything, but we still remain. We have a lot of people out there that's trying to find their way home, but we'll get caught up by a lot of these traps of people who look like us, but just out here to take advantage of our people. Let's make sure moving forward that we use our voice. If something is misrepresenting us, speak up. If something isn't right, speak up. It doesn't mean go out and mind other people's business. No, mind your business. But when it comes to who we are as a whole, speak up. Let's start using our voices. Let's make sure anybody who's trying to find their way back home, they don't have to go through the same struggles that we went through. Let's yell it so loud that it reverberates around the planet, that everyone is on notice. And on that note, relatives, it's always fun when we get together, go through our story, telling our truth, and there is no place we'd rather be in the rising. So everyone have a very, very blissful day. And until tomorrow's Rising Show, peace.
Where's brother no sellout?
Fast, so I'll say it for him. Peace out.
Peace, y'all.
Warning, warning. Hard hats, pickaxe, shovels, boots required.